Awesome. This is Jay Rosepepe, Chair of the Land Use Committee. We have our monthly meeting today, November 17th, 2021. I'll ask people to introduce themselves, starting with the council members.
I'm Scott Diener.
I'm Fred Chang.
And Nick and Josie, if you would introduce yourselves.
Yeah, Nick Bond, the DCD director for the city.
Josie Rademacher, assistant planner.
All right, we have a very short agenda after a very good meeting last night. And the first item on it is fireworks. And Nick, do you want to talk about this a little bit more?
Yeah, I had asked that this be put on the agenda just to follow up on anything from last night based on the direction from the city council. So I wasn't quite sure where this would go today. I think the main point for discussion right now is when would we like to take action on this? And the couple of items that are bouncing around in my head is that at least one of the people who expressed a preference for next steps last night is leaving city council at the end of the year. And so really, I think the question is, do we try to have a hearing on this before the end of the year, or do we wait until next year? And I talked to the attorney. It shouldn't be too hard to get an ordinance put together and ready for consideration at our December 21st meeting, if that's what we want to do, but it's also the holidays. And so I figured I would defer to you guys for that direction.
Personally, I'd like to kick the can down the road into next year. I don't think that Councilmember Ashby leaving will really change the direction that the council is moving. And I don't want to make it seem like we're trying to rush something under the table. And that would be my druthers to move it into. We talked last night about the January, February timeframe, and I'm good with that. Scott and Fred.
I would agree with that time frame, but I think we also might need to formalize what type of public hearings we want to have, if any. Sean suggested that we definitely let the public weigh in, and I would agree with that. I would also think that we might want to notify the public of this meeting through utility billing. Just some way to get their attention that it's happening, because for many people, I think this could be a major change to their way of life. And I wish you could see me rolling my eyes, but the video's off.
Well, and that was another question I had also is obviously with the fireworks stands, we had 9 of those applications in 2021. We could also notify the applicants for fireworks stands of the hearing if that's the way that we want to go, or we could focus on more of a general public notice. I wasn't sure whether you wanted to hear from the fireworks stand proponents.
So I'll weigh in. I agree with Jay and Fred that we don't need to rush this. We need to, it's going to be a popular agenda item. And so let's make sure we do our due diligence. I agree with sooner is better, but not this year. I like looking at it in January, February, March timeframe. And I'm pretty confident that the people who sell fireworks will be coming out en masse, and we can let them know about it. We will hear that this is going to be a hit to, their fundraising, some of their fundraising opportunities. I'd want to talk a little bit more about, do we do this? Do we advertise this through a utility billing or some other way? But the bottom line is would like to continue this into next year.
All right.
Do you feel, Nick, that would you have enough information to do a draft of the ordinance right now, or do we need to get a little bit more specifics for you? The reason I bring that up is sometimes when we do a survey or a public outreach, it's always nice to have what we're thinking, of moving forward.
I think drafting this is not going to be difficult. I don't think there's a whole lot of nuance to what we are changing. I mean, we are not selling them and we are not discharging them, and that's
That was, I think that was it. And I think the other, and it, though it's separate, that I don't think it would go in the ordinance, that, July 4th is when we, I heard everybody would still like to go ahead with the display downtown.
Right. And I don't think that the display factors into the amendments to the code, because the council can approve it on the 4th or any other weekend of the year if they choose under our events
Right.
permit. So that section wouldn't be changing. The
that-
one other, go ahead.
I just going to say that's true. However, in the spirit of letting people know that some things aren't changing, I'd like to make sure that that's prominently known as well, because otherwise people might think that, everything's being banned and the current council hates Independence Day.
Right.
And to add to what Scott said, and I know you'll do this, but I just want to check, Nick, that before we introduce the ordinance, we have some sort of preamble or introduction explaining how
Yes.
it came about. Not
Sure,
just
the where-
putting it out there.
The whereas statements can definitely be drafted and even supplemented if we want to discuss this in committee before it ever goes to a hearing as to why we are taking the action.
Absolutely. Please.
The only other piece of this that I've been thinking about is that we do have a reference to fireworks stands and the sales of fireworks in our land use table, and it is a specific use under the sales category. And so my thought is that we should be amending chapter 5.6 first, and then later go clear up the land use table. And that's for a couple of reasons. Number one, the planning commission would be the one holding the hearing on the land use amendment, and it's going to be a lot neater if the council has already acted. And number two, we don't need to amend the land use code on the same timeline as the fireworks code, because we are still going to have fireworks stands this coming summer. And so I think that by amending the fireworks stands, chapter 5.60, we still have 1 year before those changes can take effect, and then we will amend the land use code accordingly and set that to take effect upon the changes to chapter 5.6.
Okay, and so just to follow on that, if somebody applies for a fireworks stand in 2023, they don't get to be vested, I presume, because of the application process.
No, well, no, because the way that the state limits how we charge fees, we're not making them apply for the tent permit. Well, at least they're not paying for it. That's something I've got to think about and discuss a little bit more with the city attorney. I was trying to figure out the mechanics of that, because it's an unusual situation.
Yeah, people are aware of vesting, and so we don't want anybody to angle it that way.
Yep.
Right.
This is out and done with, was the direction.
Right.
So the preamble, Nick, I'm hopeful that it includes not only concerns or issues that are presented by the two chiefs, but also the fire marshal, if that makes sense. But also some of the issues that were pointed out last night, which include pollution into
Environmental.
the stormwater, pollution into the sound, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think it'll include everything from pets to kids getting injured, and the conflict of having a public display on the 4th mixed with people shooting off private fireworks in crowds. All of that will be kind of compiled as part of the ordinance.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's evidence of what, or maybe discussions at least, of what this does to wildlife at the same time.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think then that probably the best course of action will be to take this issue. We'll work on drafting the code, and we will bring it to the land use committee for further review, maybe in January. And then once the land use committee is satisfied with the condition of the draft ordinance, we can schedule the hearing and get it on a council agenda.
I'd like to have it decided by council no later than sometime in March, one of our March meetings.
Okay.
The last thing I would add is it might be worthwhile to take a look at what Bainbridge Island did. Maybe their ordinance is a pretty good, it's got some good points we could model after.
I will, Josie, can you make a note to try to track that down for me, and we can share it with the group if it provides insight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
with the caveat that I think they've had theirs have had fireworks banned for a while. Maybe there are some more recent jurisdictions that have chosen not to allow them as well, and maybe they have more relevant and recent reasons why.
Okay.
Yeah, I would not like to hang our hat on Bainbridge Island. We get enough enough association as it is.
Well, for example, they may have good points about what it does to the marine environment.
Scott, I'm not saying that. I just don't want to use them as because Bainbridge Island did this.
No. I totally agree.
Yeah, we know their demographics are not our demographics.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Fred. Okay, is this just weird or is it just me? But watching the screen go around when people are talking, the little box, it's weird.
It's weird. Yeah, it's definitely weird.
Okay, anything else on fireworks?
I think I'm just thinking out loud, but I would want to know where it's still legal. So that would be Pierce County, Bremerton, Kitsap County, and Paulsbo.
Sure, I can have Josie do a little research on that as well and gather that factual information.
Thank
And
you.
then reservation land as well.
Oh yeah, and Vashon, I suppose.
Well, the interesting thing is, because it takes a year, and I'm not, please, Josie, I'm not adding to your plate. It'll be interesting to see as the tide starts swelling, who else is going out. That 108-degree day did a lot to change a lot of attitudes. If we have another summer like that, it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I talked to the fire marshal about this around the 4th of July, and the weather leading into 4th of July was not enough to trip an emergency ban, interestingly enough.
Yeah, just I know we're kind of getting off on a tangent here, but I was amazed at the damage to trees that was done. And just looking at that, I am surprised that they didn't trip it. And although Cliff Mass, who is God to some people in the weather world, said it was a once in a 100 a year, I'm not quite sure about that one. So that's my
Hey,
two cents.
Nick, add to your reasons, damage to personal property, since my neighbors have experienced that with a canvas awning that they have in the back of their house where something landed and burned right through it.
Ouch.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Let the fireworks begin. Ha ha ha.
All right, second item is park rules.
All right. Let's see here. Josie, can you give me permission to share my screen? I actually wanted to just kind of walk through these changes more in real time here.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up on a second computer screen.
You should be able to pull it up now.
There we go. Thank you.
Mhm.
Now I just have to find, I've got too many tabs open, I think.
And-
All right,
and
so-
Nick, I've got comments as we roll through this as well.
Okay, perfect. And are they by any chance typed up or are they just handwritten?
They are scribbled.
All right. Let me get a piece of paper so I can take some notes. All right, so the park rules ordinance, we dove into these from a couple of different angles, and this all started when issues at Veterans Park and homelessness and all the trash and debris and camping was taking place there. And I posed the question about, do our park rules apply in Kitsap County? And our attorney researched our rules and said, no, they don't apply at Veterans Park, but she says you have a number of issues that need to be addressed because of recent court decisions and other sort of legal issues. And the attorney went through the code and consulted with both the police chief, the public works director, and myself to talk about a number of changes that they believed were needed. So we can walk through these section by section. I think this section 2 that's on the screen is probably pretty self-explanatory. I think there's a legal reason for stating this that I'm not qualified to speak to, but the attorney wanted to make clear that this is an exercise of police power. Under definitions, the numbering is going away. We're just putting the definitions in quotes and listing them alphabetically. We're adding a definition of an air or gas weapon. And I believe part of the reason is that we had exploding propane tanks and reports of gunshots in Veterans Park, although we can't confirm that those were actual shots rather than just the sound of an exploding tank. In any event, we wanted to define the air or gas weapon.
How do you want comments?
You can just stop me anytime.
Okay, so let's go with the first one, air or gas weapon. I have two comments. So first of all, I think that there are three common projectiles, if you will, that are used with compressed air or carbon dioxide or other gases. So there's the BBs, which are airsoft, and then the brass BBs that we all grew up with. Pellets, of course, but then also paintballs. That's the third common projectile. I think with paintball, and BBs and pellets, you've covered most, if not all, of those projectiles. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, and it is noted later on that there's a discussion of crossbows. When we were doing when my family and I were doing the cleanup at Veterans Park, there was a guy who was living there that said, "You guys should be careful. Somebody shot a crossbolt at me the other day." And so that was it was kind of disturbing to hear. But I also note that we don't really have a definition of that. I'm not sure that one is needed, but later on in the ordinance, we do reference crossbows. And
But we do say that firearm means a weapon or device from which a projectile or projectiles may be fired by an explosion such as gunpowder.
right,
I mean,
crossbow is a well, it's a tensioned.
yeah, it's a tension. I'm just saying is, would that be nitpicking? It says firearm means a weapon or device, such as gunpowder. Could you add other means, on that? I'm just trying to play lawyer at the same time, but
I'll be nitpicky about that. It says by an explosive such as gunpowder.
But then what I'm saying is if we added or other means, would that suffice?
That works for me if it works for Nick.
Okay, I will raise that issue with the attorney.
Yeah, and obviously it's not just crossbows, but it's regular bows or compound bows or however you want to word it.
And that's why I was trying to keep it just short, saying any other means on that one. That's where I'm at. Yeah, right there where you just pulled up.
Yeah.
Under the air or gas weapon, or are you talking the
No,
firearm?
under firearm definition or other means,
Yeah. I will have to say, Nick, I learned a new word today, which is indicia or indicia. How do you say that?
Indicia?
Indicia? Okay.
I do not know.
I've heard indicia, but I haven't heard in this use. It's the plural of
Indicators?
yeah, something like that, I think.
Yeah. I can tell you that word did not.
Probably
find
have
a
used
synonym for it.
indications instead of indicia. I would have used indications.
Yeah, I think this is probably a legal term rooted in Latin or something like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
All right. So no concern on the director or the definition of camping being
Well,
amended.
camping, I did have just an observation about camping. We have people that are camping in RVs, vans, and trailers.
All right.
And that's a little harder to nail down because sometimes you have visitors, but then there are other means to determine people are using parking lots, for example, as camping.
Or the flat tires is usually a dead giveaway.
Yeah. All right. Park, any concern with the definition changes to park?
One thing that I thought maybe we wanted to add, just to make it clear, is that there are parking areas that we that are associated with parks, and also tidelands.
All right. And the other part of this, and maybe you all want to weigh in on this is this definition, I do not believe would include the county park. So our park rules don't apply to the county park, but what we've been told by the attorney is that actually the county's adopted rules could be enforced by our police in the city of Port Orchard.
Because we have an interlocal agreement?
I forget the I don't have that at my fingertips right now, but yeah, I believe that it's but the county code, the difference with the county code is that it's actually a criminal violation for all of this, rather than civil, which is how our current code is structured. Although I think that's changing in this proposed draft.
Huh. Okay. Well, that would be good to hear more about when the time comes.
All right, I'm just going to make a note there. All right, moving on to the park hours. So the dusk till dawn is clarified. And just the restrictions on being in a park after hours is also clarified in the section about park rules. And obviously it doesn't apply to dedicated roads or sidewalks used for transportation, which are not designated as closed.
Go ahead, Fred.
I'm a little concerned about number 2 pertaining to any park. For example, there's Clayton Park. And what if you're walking through it after a half hour after dusk from one side to the other? Is that technically being unlawful?
Technically, it would be unless it is a designated transportation corridor or easement. I mean, so if it's if there's a sidewalk or a pathway going through the park, that's different, I would presume, than if the park is gated and then you go around the gate and go into the park.
It's just that it's sort of a shortcut from Dwight Street to DeKalb Street, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So to have to, and I'd prefer not going through it at night because the grass is wet and you can't see it, but it may happen that, someone chooses to walk through it. I don't know that it should be unlawful to walk through a park.
Yeah, I think that, the intent is that we're trying to be. I think that if somebody is in a park, I mean, I don't think that the police necessarily are going to write a ticket every time somebody is found in a park, especially if they're not bothering somebody or they were just passing through or something like that. So, I don't know how this will be enforced, but there's a reason to say that you can't be in a park after hours. And if there's some park that you want to say that you can be in after hours, you're opening the door to everybody to be in that park after hours, I think is the issue.
Yeah, and I've had that experience where, well, I guess it was at the county park, at the skate park, where we were riding at night with headlamps, my son and I, and rode up upon a cop, and he said, "You guys got to leave." But they didn't say that this was a ticketable offense or anything like that. They were just kind to say, you guys can't be here.
So the skate park is also closed at dusk?
Yeah. Which is kind of interesting because they don't have any gates, but the county sheriffs do a sweep through there. I had a comment on number 2. Also, what does it take to consider a vehicle abandoned?
Well, it says unattended here, so it's.
I'm wondering if we can strengthen it by saying a vehicle unattended shall be considered abandoned. Because then that I believe provides for an immediate remedy. Now, maybe that's just too strong or too much. But I thought maybe that was an interesting approach because it triggers a whole other level of enforcement or remediation.
I think abandonment is actually a higher legal standard to meet,
Yeah.
and it would be harder to enforce if we use the word abandoned here.
That
I
was
think
kind of my thought too. I just was wondering what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I believe that actually Josie and I were just at a planning conference yesterday and the day before, and in our legal session, there was quite a bit of discussion of what it means to abandon something, and there has to be an intent to abandon for non-conforming type issues, and you have to be able to prove the intent of abandonment. And so I think unattended is a much easier threshold to enforce.
Okay, I kind of figured as much. So thank you.
All right. Anything else on the hours section that's worth discussing? No. All right. Damage to park property. This has just been strengthened. And it includes, if people are out there cutting down trees or ripping up shrubs, that is something that is enforceable. And obviously at Veterans Park, this is something we've seen quite a bit of, with people clearing whole areas of the park to set up campsites. And so this clearly makes it unlawful to not just damage a structure, but to damage the wildlife and vegetation within a park.
So the one feature I would add to this is trails. I've seen where people have actually damaged trails.
All right. All right, the next section is animals. And so, again, it just strengthened the limitations on animals in public parks. And obviously there are off-leash areas that can still be designated. That's not changing. But it also gives us the ability to totally prohibit animals from certain areas of a park.
I think we should allow cats to run at large. I'm joking.
I just real quickly, oh, never mind. I saw it. I thought I'd seen it before and I couldn't find it. Never mind.
The mayor lets his dog off leash in Clayton Park. So is that now going to be unlawful in number 1?
Is there a sign that says they can't be? Does it have to be
It's not
signed?
prohibited. It's not prohibited, but I guess not. I don't think it's prohibited. So.
Yeah, I think it is currently
Yeah.
prohibited.
Yeah, it is.
But in our draft parks plan, that park, they have identified a possible off-leash area as one of the amenities to be built in that park. So that may sort itself out.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
I don't have anything until just a question on section 7.
Okay.
And my question is, if somebody wanted to do a paintball tournament, is that something we would allow?
I believe that, yes, we can authorize, whether it would be like, I don't know, like a target practice type event with bow and arrow or anything like that can be permitted, I believe.
And as you know, paintballs have they have a pretty big visual impact once they're done.
Right, right.
So I guess my comment would be to make sure that we've got the provision to be able to add conditions to any approval to mitigate impacts of said discharges.
Well, they'd have to go through the special event to do something, wouldn't they?
Yeah. They
So I
would.
mean
Well, I
that's
don't know.
where
I don't know if
that's
it's
where we run
considered-
into it.
All right. Sound amplification equipment, was there any concern there? This is a new section.
I kind of like it, although once again in Clayton Park, there are people who exercise with sound equipment that you can hear over 30 feet. I suppose this would give the neighbors something to complain about, but
Yeah, 30 feet is not a lot of distance. I was thinking the same thing, Fred.
Well, and anybody over 30 feet, if you can't hear it less than that, no offense, you need to get your hearing checked.
So we have a definition of public nuisance elsewhere. Should we reference that in 2A?
We possibly could. Two, you mean, oh yeah,
Will
2A.
not- 2A will not constitute a public nuisance as defined in POMC blank.
or add it to the definitions. I don't think it is in the definitions.
All right.
There you go.
Any final thoughts on this one? All right, camping prohibited. So we've always had a camping restriction, but this is really being bolstered because we're seeing so much more of this occurring throughout the area. And I believe this is also updated to reference the Boise decision in terms of having to have shelter space available. And so this makes sure that we are not violating rights through the enforcement of our parks code.
So I've got a few comments here. One is there's a space between number 2 and number 3 that's needed. And then again, my comment about parking lots should be added to where we talk about parks. So parks and parking lots. And then
Sorry,
in
say the last
Adicia,
part again. After you said the space between 2 and 3, what was that?
number 2, a person is guilty of unlawful camping if he or she uses park property, including parking lots.
Okay.
And then under number 3, indicia or indicators of camping. Also the comment about RVs, vans, and trailers as well.
Is it possible just to have one spot for parking as opposed to multiple references to it?
I think that I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to the attorney about that.
Okay, the shorter we can keep it, the better.
Mhm.
Yeah, I only added it in 2 places.
I understand.
So Nick, is number 5 sort of negating 1 through 4?
It does in the event that shelter space isn't available.
It's not available. Okay.
Right. But what, and I don't know whether we're still looking at homelessness issues in Port Orchard and trying to understand what can and can't be done. But at least a number of jurisdictions, including Gig Harbor, uses a 20-mile rule that says if shelter space is available in a shelter within 20 miles of wherever the person might be staying, it is considered available. I don't know that we've decided to use that threshold or whether we're saying it has to be available within Port Orchard or within Kitsap County or kind of what that threshold looks like.
That's pretty onerous.
Wow.
20 miles.
20
That's-
miles. So they want to send him to Tacoma? That's so like Gig Harbor to do.
Well, I mean, luckily for them, they have some form of public transportation. We don't. I mean, it's not readily available.
Wow, that's interesting. I would hope that we would not do something like that.
No, we can't do that. That's wrong.
That's onerous.
Sending him to Bremerton is bad enough because they don't want to go there, but 20 miles would just be too much.
Yeah.
What does it say when you don't want to even go to Bremerton? Little joke there.
This is being recorded.
All right. Should we move on to the trespassing section?
Yeah.
So essentially, if the city decides to close a park or post something as no trespassing, this gives us one other tool for dealing with people who are in the park and are in an area that they're not supposed to be. I think that one is pretty straightforward. Any comments?
I'm curious if we've exercised this with anybody. Well, this is brand new, but have we exercised an ejection from the park?
Not from a park. Well, I don't know. I don't think we've enforced the park rules other than to post them. It really hasn't ever come to the point of writing tickets. But we have trespassing issues have been coming up in private property issues a lot more recently
Yeah.
because of homelessness related issues.
Yeah.
So we're making sure that for areas of our parks where people are not supposed to be, whether it's, you know, if we had a maintenance yard or something like that, we're making sure that people aren't going into those areas, and it has an extra level of restriction.
I'm comfortable with it, but I'm wondering, are we just putting a little sign but leaving the gate wide open, or are we actually blocking off access?
It could be either. I mean, I think using Veterans Park as the example, they close the gate and have a park closed sign posted on the vehicle gates into the park.
Hmm.
I would imagine it would be something like that. Or, you know, if we had, I'm trying to think I don't know if we have any water. I guess Van Zee Park, we have the reservoir there, but that's not restricted. But if we had a water facility in our park, or like the pump house at Van Zee Park, we could, I believe that's fenced, and we could put a no trespassing sign around that facility because it is in a park and we're not letting people into that area.
And that would make sense. I'm just worried about a park that, you know, you have gates, or you aren't even putting tape over the gate areas, and you're putting a little sign so people could actually not see the sign. But yeah, a fenced off area should be pretty clear that there's no admittance.
Yeah. This next section allows the director to post additional rules. And so this is, you know, we have certain types of facilities at certain parks. And so at the splash pad, we, you know, hopefully we don't have to post a sign that says no bathing in the splash pad or using soap or things like that. But if the director needs to put something on a sign because somebody is behaving badly, this gives us the ability to do that. It could also be skateboarding in areas that aren't designated for skateboarding, just that sort of thing. And then this is a new section concerning prohibiting people for an extended period of time from the park if they are causing certain types of problems.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, finally, I think that's really it. So our hope was to bring this to council, I think at the meeting on I don't know if it was supposed to go forward this next Tuesday or the first meeting of December. I can't remember, but based on the comments I've received, I'll send this to the attorney and see if she can take a look at those items.
So just food for thought on that. The next meeting is supposed to be a presentation by Commissioner Greedo in the county on Veterans Park. Is that correct?
I remember hearing that they were going to come give a presentation. I don't know which agenda it's on.
Well, if it's on that agenda, I would suggest we hold off on this until the following meeting, because her presentation may inform on some thoughts that we didn't have or might need to think about some more before we look at this again.
All right, sounds
Potentially.
good.
I don't know that that's the case or not.
No, that's a good point.
Well, it'd be interesting to hear on the same time. I think we'd probably want them to adopt what we've written. We'd be just as happy. That was a little snide there.
I don't know that they can.
No, I'm joking. The question I did have is, I assume the chief has seen this because, you
Yes,
know,
definitely.
okay, because, you know, sometimes I always have a hard time writing rules and stuff that we don't enforce, and, you know, it gives them a little bit more leeway, but at the same time, I don't think we have the staff to enforce it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a challenge. And, you know, I'm not even sure that for the first year that the chief was here, he even knew we had adopted park rules or penalties. And so it's something that, you know, as he got more familiar with the city, we said, hey, we have issues at the county park. Are our rules something that you can enforce there? And, so that's a lot of what prompted some of these revisions, was all of the conversations we were having between the 3 departments and the attorney.
Okay. All righty.
So, if we're done with that, I've just got one thing.
I was going to ask for good of the order.
Yeah,
Hey, Scott, you have anything good of the order?
well, not a good of the order thing, but maybe something this group is interested in. So going back to the counties coming to the next meeting, my understanding in talking with the mayor before he left is that there were some concerns about additional, or I should say, access into some of the troublesome areas for Rockport, that he had asked the county to sort of abate some of the issues by putting in ecology blocks. And so there was a number of things that he talked about, fencing, for example, maybe fencing critical areas. What I'd like to do, Nick, if I can, is go out with code enforcement and see where these issues are, so that when Charlotte is talking about them, I have a better understanding of what's going on. Is there
Yeah,
a way
so-
that I could meet up with code enforcement, or we all could? If it's during the day, I mean, I don't want to make code enforcement come out at night, certainly, but I'd like to have a visit of the areas that are being discussed.
So one of the issues that we've been dealing with is whether or not we have the police accompanying us when we go into these areas, because as you mentioned, there is a guy who is purported to be flashing a crossbow at people. And there's another guy apparently who has a machete out there and has chased people out of his area. So, the comfort level of going into some of these areas is, I know that Katie has not been real comfortable going in this area without an escort. And so is that something that you are or are not comfortable doing?
Well, I was under the impression from the mayor that this was not necessarily about going into the sites. This was about access points into the sites.
Sure. Yeah, we could absolutely do something with regard to visiting the access points. I'd be happy to set that up with Katie and see if she's available to show you where this is occurring.
Okay.
I would be interested in attending as well. That sounds like a good field trip.
Okay.
Fred, are you able to go during the day? I mean, are you pretty
Yeah.
flexible?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll make it.
You guys have a couple of days in mind that you might be available? Because if Charlotte is coming next meeting, we would need to do this between now and Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
I'm free this week.
Yeah, I'm fine this week. I can make it happen. Maybe later in the day tomorrow is okay
No,
for me, and then Fridays is a little more wide open.
yeah, Friday would be great if we could do it then.
Okay.
I got Transpol tomorrow at 3.
Yeah, Friday would be Friday or Monday for me. I have something at noon, but before that or after that.
You want to shoot for? Well, I can tell you right now.
I will add too that I believe your videos should work now. I understand it's a little late, but I think I fixed the problem.
Hey, I'm up. There's Fred.
So was it just a setting?
Yeah, it was just found it in a random setting spot on Zoom. So
It's all good.
So I'm good Friday afternoon, anytime.
Okay.
Ditto.
Yeah. Friday afternoon would be okay.
And then I just need to know a time and a meetup spot, like maybe we meet at Albertsons or something.
All right. Let me see what I can do.
Okay.
The other item that isn't on the agenda I wanted to bring up is our next meeting. I actually have a medical procedure scheduled for the 15th of December. So I was just thinking maybe we should cancel that one, but it's up to you. And I think we do new committee assignments next year. So I don't know if things will be changing and meeting dates will be changing after the 15th or not.
I think unless there's anything to do with the various plans, I'm okay with canceling. Is there anything that's coming before the council prior to February, because we usually do our assignments and, obviously after swearing in, so that would happen in January. So anything that needs to be addressed before February?
Only the fireworks.
Yeah.
So we can make that the first item on the land use agenda for next year. And other than that, I think we're just trying to close out some projects before the end of this year. And I think you've seen almost everything. I mean, I'm hoping to have an update on the parks plan, but
Right.
the end of the year is getting pretty hectic. So I'm not sure that we would even get to that.
I don't have anything on plate. I think you guys have done a whale of a job
Yeah.
this year. I'm amazed at the amount of material you bring to council and the professionalism of it, Nick. Really sincerely mean that. And you blew everybody away last night with the McCormick sub area plant.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, good work coming out of DCD.
All right. I'm all of a sudden in the last 3 days, I've realized how much I've lost with Carrie is I'm having to write staff reports and get everything ready for council. And I don't know where I'm going to have time to do anything else now.
Okay.
But
Well, Josie, welcome to the team, on this side, and it's herding cats with council.
So just a quick question, good at the order, and maybe we can get updates until we see relief, but how is recruitment going?
I would say that we have some very entry level candidates, a handful of them that are all, have had 1 or 2 jobs and not been in the field for very long. I don't have anybody that I would say is an expert in being a planner in Washington that has applied so far. And I haven't looked for a couple of days, so maybe there's somebody new that has come in, but right now I'm feeling like I would have to hire 2 of these people to even begin to fill Carrie's shoes. So I'm a little worried.
Have you had an applicant from Georgia?
Oh, I'm not sure. I've had a few out-of-state applicants. I think there was a Texas, there's an Arizona, a Nevada, and I think a Virginia, but I don't remember.
Okay, Scott, who do you know?
Well, I just know that there was an applicant that came to the county. He's got some planning experience, and he's from Georgia.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't know if you had, God, if you knew somebody that was, willing to move here that knew their stuff. Anything else for the good of the order? Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. I know we'll see everybody before then, next week, but if not, it is
Or
the holiday
Friday.
season.
All right.
Yeah.
And next meeting to be determined in 2021.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.